And hello, everyone. Welcome once again to the WARTburg Infusion Entertainment Review. It's time for episode 65 with me, your host, Thomas, aka Mr. Wartburg. And as always, my co host, Patrick, aka Mr. Fusion.
Greetings and salutations. Good to see you, my friend. It's been a while. How are
Yeah,
you feeling, man?
I am feeling good. It's been roughly about a month since we've recorded.
Yeah.
During the break, I had stomach surgery. For those who maybe are watching this and don't know, I had an ostomy bag for the last year that got reversed. So it was a good surgery and a planned one. This time wasn't an emergency and I didn't almost die. It sucked. The recovery in the hospital was really not fun. Spent 8 days in the hospital this time. And I didn't have to go back to the hospital, which is great. But having an NG tube shoved up your nose and then down into your gut, not fun. Not pleasant. Don't recommend it. Don't do that.
I bet.
If you can avoid doing that, please do so. Because that was 3 days before they finally took it out, and I could actually eat food again. So, but I'm home. I'm mended. The staples are out. I'm finally feeling better, and I'm actually going to my first Twins game in 15 years this Thursday.
All right. You making the drive up to Minneapolis, man?
Heck yeah! Which
So you haven't been to the new stadium.
I haven't been to
right?
Target Field.
Oh boy. Okay.
Oh, pay those. It wasn't a feeding one. It was a suction one. Like they were decompressing everything, and it's very bizarre. It's a weird feeling, especially when they take it out. Like it's less painful, but it's super weird. But yeah, don't recommend that. So yeah, I'm going up for my first Twins game. Gonna meet Dennis in the Twin Cities. I
Nice.
made the solo drive to Rochester for the Staples to come out Wednesday. That's about 2 hours for me. Twin Cities to Target Field downtown Minneapolis is about 2.5, so I should be good to go. Gonna get a hotel downtown because it's an evening game against the Royals for the opening of a series. Might be a little rainy, but we got seats at the top of one of the sections, so it's covered by the second level. So should be nice and dry, but I'll bring a sweatshirt and stuff because it's gonna get a little chilly.
Still don't understand, man, why these northern stadiums, these ballparks don't have retractable roofs, man. I don't get it. I mean,
Yeah. Well,
you know,
well, at the time,
Vegas is doing
that's a
a
heat thing
partial,
though. Like it gets fucking hot.
but it gets
That's
fucking
way more.
cold up
That's way
north.
more. Heat is more dangerous than cold.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true, especially during the daytime.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
baseball. They're not hitting their heads on the turf.
That's
Like it's and in Minnesota they play spring baseball. Like their entire season is done for high school by like mid-April.
Okay.
It's fucking wild. Here in Iowa, we don't start until mid-May is when we start playing games. And then we go through July, like middle of July is when our baseball season ends.
With MLB, it's usually playoff time is where it starts getting pretty chilly. But
Yeah.
that's
And then like there are a
about
few
it.
teams like Seattle's going to have some really chilly games to start of spring, Minnesota, Detroit, Chicago's. Other than that, and obviously Toronto, but theirs is a dome. They have a dome, right?
Who does?
Does Toronto have a dome?
I think they do.
Yeah, I think they do. They have a dome.
They used to have the Sky Dome.
Yeah, and then Cleveland. But yeah, pretty much everybody. I mean, Kansas City doesn't get that chilly though. Kansas City's not like northern Midwest.
Okay, look. Hey, if Chicagoans can go to White Sox and Cubs games,
if the Chicago teams make it work.
Yeah, and that place is just a literal ice box, like 9 months out of the year.
Yeah.
So, okay. Yeah.
But yeah, it'll be a good time.
Oh, that's cool, man. That's cool.
So I'm looking forward to that. And then I go back to work middle of May. And I'm currently planning Cure for Crohn's 6, which currently I have 6 streamers lined up. I'm hoping to get to 7, and then I'll stream twice to get to 8 streams, 24 hours, raising money for the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. So I'll be spending my break getting the finishing touches on that plan. So while we were gone, though, a bunch of stuff came out. And Fusion, by the way, you recently have recovered from, did you say you had strep?
It was strep, thankfully. It wasn't COVID, which, me being a germaphobe, my first time, like, in a big public place, I was at Minute Park for opening day, and, man, it's been a day and a half out in public, and I get sick, so now that I'm recovered, I'm probably going to go back to a hermit lifestyle. I just, it just sucks for me, man, because, like you, I'm immunocompromised, because of the cancer stuff. So when I get sick, I get really sick. So for me, it's like, oh, I get someone's casual cold or strep. And for me, it's like the respiratory stuff is what's brutal because throat gets really swollen, cough, nonstop cough. So I can't sleep. I didn't sleep for like 4 days,
That sucks.
And it was just, and I would be sitting up at this desk here watching stuff. And if I dozed off for like an hour, great. And then, I would try to lay down and You know, I have a little bed over here where my dog Bailey's sleeping in right now. So, but behind me, but at least the cough's died down. You know, feeling a lot
Huh,
better now. Yeah.
good to hear.
So
I had
yeah.
strep one time, and it like wrecked my voice for like several weeks. And I had to coach a basketball game, and I couldn't talk.
Oh, yeah, man.
It
Like
was brutal.
I barely got it back on Friday. Like, you know, I had to do a team meeting at my company, and I was the host, like the leading manager that day. And trying to talk, and one of the guys that I met him the day before for a quick meeting at lunch, and he was like, "Man, your voice came back," because on Thursday it was like you sounded awful. I'm like, "Yeah, it bounced back really quick after a week of 2 weeks of just being gone." So yeah,
Yeah,
unfortunately, I gave it to my wife. Joanne's recovering right now. You know, she's less and less coughing each day, which is good. So, gonna get back to normalcy, you know, with everything. But you know, like you, man, just was for me. It's 3 weeks of just brutalness now. You know, just trying to feel normal, and I'm in nowhere near the shape. You know, the things you had to go through. But like for me, like with being immunocompromised, just a casual cold will affect me for weeks. You know,
yeah,
sucks.
it's never fun.
No,
Well, we should get to some fun stuff though, because a
let's do
lot
that.
has come out content-wise in that last
Oh
month.
yeah. Oh yeah.
So where do you want to start? So the big topics we're going to cover tonight, just so everyone knows, we're going to talk Mandalorian season 3. We're going to touch a little bit on John Wick 4 because we both really liked it, and then Picard season 3 is what we're hoping. We're going to try to get a specific John Wick podcast with a friend who's a huge John Wick fan and try to do a ranking episode with her. So we'll see if that can happen sometime in probably either end of this month or in May at some point. So those are kind of the big three we're going to talk about, plus a little check-in on Ted Lasso since it's at the mid-season point right now, 6 of 12, as well as what we've been watching and playing. So let's start there. So Fusion, in
Okay.
this last month, what's been your what we've been watching or playing?
Watching finally jumped up Picard like you had been pushing me to do, and I did while I was out sick. So spent a lot of time watching Picard. Um, Playing Fortnite here and there, man. Just that's my go-to game at this point. Just because of all the battle royals, once they remove that zero build, it's been fun for me. You know, I just have a lot of fun. I win a lot of game matches in singles. You know, I think I've won like 20 matches so far. It's
Nice.
fun, man. It's fun, man. Like I enjoy it. So like if I have a little time and I don't want to dip into some heavy gaming, I'll just play a few rounds and then I'm in and out. You know, and I know a lot of folks in our like in our gaming social circle like have been looking for battle royals. Is like this is the one that's fun. It's fun again. So let's just jump in. I know we've jumped in a few times and we won a shitload of matches. A couple, you know, right before we took our break. I think there was
Yeah, we
one
had
night
that
where we
night we
won like
won 5 in a row. It was
5 in
awesome.
a row. But then right before your surgery, you guys played one night too, and you guys
Yeah,
won
we
like
won
3 or
3
4
in a row.
matches.
Yeah.
See,
Honestly, it's Jiran. When Jiran is in the party, we can't lose. Even if he crashes and like doesn't finish the match, we literally can't lose if he joined us.
he's the X factor, man. He's the catalyst.
We
He's the
should do a
catalyst.
statistical analysis at some point to be like, this is how many games we've played with Jiran. This is how many times we've won. This is how many times we've played without him, and how many times we've won. And I would bet at this point, small sample size, we have a significant advantage when he's in the party for some reason. I don't understand it. Maybe it's because when he's in the party, we have a wider range of pings because he's up in Alaska,
Maybe.
and that means the lobby's got a larger ping range or something like that. And like because we're all central, or maybe it's just better. I don't know.
I don't know, man. I don't know, but you're right. Every time he usually like gets kicked out of the match at the very beginning, and we're
Yeah,
still rocking it with we still rock all the way through shorthanded. But yeah, it's been fun, man. Been playing that. Watch Picard, like you said, Ted Lasso, Mando. I have thoughts on those as well as just I haven't been going to the movies because I have been sick, you know. But my goal is that there's some really good throwback movies this summer at the Draft House, and I'm really like there's some old stuff that I'm really excited to go see. They're gonna do another showing of They Live, which I watched last year, and I might go watch it again
so
this
that would be a
year.
great movie in the theaters to
Here,
go
here's the
to
best
chill
one.
with.
They're showing every week. They're showing every week. They're showing one of the Fast and Furious movies, and they're leading you up to the current one.
That'd be
Do I
great.
really?
I don't know if you want to sit through 2 and 4.
Uh,
I don't know.
that's a lot of Vin Diesel for me, man. I'm
It's
not
it's a
gonna lie to
lot.
you. It's a lot of Vin Diesel, so I'm gonna have to think about that one. But there's like a good list of like throwback movies that are coming in and out this summer, and I have put that season pass to good use for sure. Yeah, but yeah, that's really
Indeed,
it, man. Keeping
pathos,
it simple.
ejecto seat. God, I always forget about that moment, and then I'm like, oh yeah, that happened in a Fast and Furious movie. Fucking
Well, not only
wild.
that, in the last one, the car swung across a cliff, right?
Yeah, and this
I
time he's
didn't.
gonna take down helicopters with a car. Like, I have no idea what that franchise even is. But speaking of
Whatever,
pathos in
man.
the chat, we are live over at twitch.tv/MrWartburg. That's MR Wartburg, like the college. You can head over there, follow us there so you can stay tuned when we go live for our recordings, and then we upload them to my YouTube channel. Or if you're on any audio services, you can head over there as well. Anything else you want to throw in there, Fusion?
The other one was last weekend. Watched the Creator Clash 2. We
Oh
could
yeah,
touch on that briefly. Really great experience. Basically, it's 2 years in a row now. Social media influencers slash content creators jump into the boxing ring and they fight. And you and I are a long time. We're longtime friends through the Rooster Teeth community. And Alana Pierce, a former employee and a friend of Rooster Teeth, she fought in a match, and her competitor, Mika. RIP Mika is her gamer tag. She's got a big community as well. They fought. Um, S fans did commentary. Dad, one of the old school YouTuber guys, there was some really good fights. Let me put it like this: these guys were incredibly like trained, and it for an amateur, like the card was a completely amateur card. They all came very prepared, and each match was incredible. Even the
yeah.
one with I forget her name, Michelle. Is it Kare? The YouTube girl that used to work for BuzzFeed. Man, she stole the show, dude.
Yeah,
I don't know
dude,
if you
like,
saw that
yeah,
match.
like she would like probably like I don't want to say she'd win a professional match, but like
No,
she wouldn't get destroyed.
no,
Like
her
she put up a
technique was
fight. She was solid.
like she had
And she had
phenomenal
and she
like
had the
technique.
cardio. Like she had the
Yeah,
stamina to just like she could go a few rounds with probably an actual professional.
and she was much smaller than her opponent. Her opponent was like 5'6" or 5'7", and she's like 5'1", 5'2", and she had like a 20-pound advantage
Yeah, and
over her.
she demolished her.
She just demolished her, and the Lana and Mika match was much more like they were bigger bodies. That was a much more physical fight to see those ladies, and then just all the matches were incredible. Like the guys and girls like did a
Yeah,
phenomenal
I mean
job. The
Harley plays out there
production was
getting
great.
dropped onto TVs because he fell out of a ring. Like,
Well, he went after a 25-year professional wrestling
yeah,
veteran.
you could tell.
I
Oh, that
mean,
dude has been a professional athlete for his entire adult life.
yeah,
Like
John Hennigan,
it's
yeah.
just it's a different body type when you do that for your entire life. Let alone maybe
But
what he did or did not do in his younger
I will
days as a
give, yeah,
wrestler.
I will give him Harley credit though. Like he got
Compared to where he
he got
was
a
last
shape.
year,
Yeah.
he is ripped. Like he got in
So
shape.
these guys and girls are going in. They are taking it very serious, and with reason, because it's boxing. It's the sweet science, which is one of my favorite sports. But it's very dangerous. If you're not trained well, you can get hurt, seriously hurt, or you can hurt your opponent. Like there's a lot of things that can take. Like I think Ethan, I forget his name. Ethan, I forget his gamer site, but anyway, his match, like he accidentally hit his opponent upside the head on the top of his head, and he says, like, "Man, I didn't mean to do that. Like, you get trained how not to throw rabbit punches and throw back of the head shots, but when it happened, it just happened." And so, like, those things can happen. There were some injuries that came from that
Yeah, one
from these
guy looked like
matches.
he had dislocated a rib or something.
Yeah, he broke a couple of his ribs on a that was the one where Dad, the YouTuber, he hit
Yeah,
him with a body shot, and he just completely like just they say he bruised them. I've heard he also broke 2 or 3 ribs, but
well, I mean,
like he was out.
dislocating is gonna hurt like hell. I've done that.
Any
Yeah,
rib damage sucks. Let's just be real.
I got
Bruising
a
them
headbutt in an
sucks.
MMA practice, like right next to my sternum, and it dislocated 2 of my ribs. They didn't break. They
Oh
were able to
man,
push use compression to get them back to where they were supposed to go. So I had to wear a
yeah.
wrap for a couple of weeks. That fucking hurt.
But everything you do hurts. Standing,
Yeah, because
sitting,
it's
breathing,
like hurting
not
your
trying to.
core. Like everything
Yeah.
you do is gonna suck.
Yeah. But you know what, man? They worked really hard to put on great fights, which they did. The production was really great for, like online content creators coming together for this event. They've sold like over 100,000 pay-per-view
Yeah, it
online
made a lot of
buys, which
money.
And it went to like 20 different charities. They filled up like the arena is like 15,000. They filled that up like 10 to 12,000 of the 15,000 seats were sold out. Like it was just a great event, man, and it was really cool to see. And I'm excited. I'm excited for it because it just as me as a guy that grew up with sports and then also was a hobbyist with like kind of geekdom in the 80s and 90s, socially back then you had your cliques. Like this stuff really didn't work, but I didn't care. Like these were both part of my world, right? Whereas a lot of people around me either were, geeks, so to speak, or jocks, right? I kind of just lived in both worlds growing up, and now like they come together in a lot of ways, especially with social media. But to see like social media, all of the sports fans make fun of like, oh, gamers this, gamers that, but then they watch this event, they're like, oh man, these guys are taking it serious, and wow, they went out there and they actually put on a good show. Like it was a really good card. So that was fun, man. I really enjoyed that.
I
Really
agree.
enjoyed
It
that.
was a great event, and I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to 3. And I was watching some of the kind of funny reactions to it, and I was like, man, you know who would be a great in-ring announcer? Greg Miller.
Well, he actually works he does WWE now,
Yeah,
right?
like he's got the hooks, like, and he's
Yeah.
got the experience as a like that kind of guy. I'm like, okay, that'd be a great like, because he's one of the bigger names, not just on the YouTube side. Kind of funny, he's not that big, but Greg Miller is as an
Yeah.
individual guy. So I was like, that would be an interesting one because I think he'd be a great presence to have in the ring because he would know so many of them.
Yeah.
Like imagine him just chopping it up with Harley before the match. That'd have been hilarious. Because that intro, that whole thing with him and oh my God, John Hennigan. That was in
John
who it was?
Hennigan, yeah.
Yeah, they're
John
both
Hennigan.
there. Both of those guys came. They understood the assignment. Like
Yeah.
they both leaned into it. It would be incredible. So
Yeah,
that
There's not only that, but he's on the
yeah,
the
he's got
pre
This Is
pay per view.
Awesome. He's on their pre-shows. He's
He
on.
does their pre shows for WWE
Yeah.
now. He like for
Well, and
Royal Rumble, like
he's hosted how
yeah,
many things professionally? Like big things. I'm like, yeah, he'd
yeah.
be a great person to have either on like the pre-show or I think he'd be a great in the ring guy. So
And wasn't it the Game Awards where he pretty much just like was it the Me Too movement or something? He like
oh yeah, the
he
Dice
doesn't
Awards. Yeah, he does the Dice
yeah
Awards.
he does but he doesn't pull punches, which is
No.
what I like about
Well,
him.
that
I
show is
appreciate it.
written by Mike Drucker, who writes.
Yeah.
Did he write for? What show did he write for?
Mike
He writes for
Drucker.
one of the late night shows, and he's written like a bunch of comedy things. So he's a great writer.
Fallon. He writes for Fallon.
Fallon, that's the one. But, all right. So
But
Creative
good stuff,
Clash
man.
was great.
It was good stuff. A lot of content's coming out still. We have a lot in the pipeline, but it was good to catch up on a few things. And then I finally took your suggestion and sat down and watched Picard, and we can talk about that here.
Yeah, we're gonna be talking about that because I really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So for me, I've been replaying Fallen Order,
Yep.
getting ready for Survivor, which comes out this week. Horizon Forbidden West continued my New Game Plus playthrough because the DLC is out, and I'm gonna play that probably as soon as possible. Ideally, I'm hoping to finish up Fallen Order this weekend and then do Forbidden West's DLC before Survivor comes out.
Okay.
Ted Lasso, Picard, Mando. Saw John Wick 4 in IMAX, which was my first IMAX showing. It was utterly incredible. We'll get to that in a little bit. Saw the D&D movie, which is all right. It was basically, imagine if you took that kind of 90s Disney live action tone and put it in 2023 with Dungeons and Dragons. So it was pretty fun. Oh, my food's here. So told him I was going to wait, but all right, so where was I? Yeah, the D&D movie.
Yeah.
And then I've started rewatching Farscape, and I'm almost through season 1. Fucking love that show, dude.
You know what, man? Talking about this, I got to insert this because I did watch it and I was pleasantly surprised. The Super Mario Brothers movie was not bad at all.
I heard it was pretty solid.
Like,
It was just going for the
yeah.
kids movie, which is exactly what they should do.
But they made the movie a video game experience, and it stuck the landing. That's it. That's all I want to say. Is just, you were talking about Farscape, and I'm like, for some reason Mario popped in my head. I was like, okay, oh wait, I got to bring this up. Yeah, I watched it, during this break period, and I was like, okay, this is not bad.
Yeah, and Payless, you're right. The puppeteering, like the physical effects that they managed to pull off in Farscape, is nuts. Like, because it's a Jim Henson production, and it's fucking wild. Like, and there's someone on YouTube, Payless, you're not probably not in my Discord, but there's a fan who's been doing a 4K upscale of Farscape, and he just finished, his project. The audio mixing on seasons 1 and 2 isn't great because he was working from some old DVD copies, but he upscaled off the Blu-ray, I think it was, for seasons 3 and 4, as well as the Peacekeeper Wars. It looks fucking good.
How did he do that on his? Like, I'm curious how he did it from home.
There are programs that can do that via
They
AI
could do it in-
upscaling, and
Okay.
like there's also a fan doing it with Deep Space Nine with lesser ability. But I'm like, where the AI has gotten makes me go, okay, rights holders. That era of things that were shot in SD digital, they don't hold up, and they're not going to able to be remastered because there is no film master to rescan from.
Yep.
And it wasn't until they shot in HD digital 720p or more that it actually is viable to remaster. Because upscaling from 480p, I mean, it's hard. But where AI comes in, this is a very specific use case for AI, is properly upscaling this era, mid to late 90s, early 2000s productions. You're going to see a lot of AI upscales because, man, this looks good. And imagine if you give it actual money, time, like proper machines that are built to do this kind of thing, and give it a few passes. Plus, work with the original audio source, because they would have the masters for those audio files. That doesn't matter. That's not going to be something that you even have to remaster. You can insert that into the remastered visual, assuming they have a separate file. Who knows? It is a rather old show at this point. If they kept those files, if they did, that'd be pretty fantastic. I would assume they did for Star Trek, because obviously it's a rather larger budget production compared to some of the others, because it's the flagship IP. But Farscape, I don't know. That was really low budget.
I think, but I would like to see what the AI could do with TNG, because that.
Well, they already did.
Did they completely do it in 4K?
Yeah.
Okay.
It didn't make enough money, so they don't want to go back and do Voyager and Deep Space Nine, but they also can't do it the same, because Next Generation was shot on film.
Yep.
So they could, much like TOS, they could go back and remaster it with new special effects for new VFX. And they did that for both. Didn't make a whole lot of money, but long term, where I think it matters is that 20 years from now, we're going to still be watching these shows.
Yeah.
You're going to want them to be the best version possible. Because who knows what the tech looks like then? Who knows what our screens look like then? You're going to want them to be as best base version as possible. So if you lose money now, I don't think they're properly taking into account the long-term tail of that and the sellability of that. But that's just little old me.
Sure.
So, but let's get into some other stuff.
Okay.
Where do you want to start? We got our big ones.
Let's go with, let's talk Ted Lasso briefly, because I have been very underwhelmed with this season, and you and I have talked about it in Discord a few times, where to me it feels like they're really trying to set up for a major payoff this season, but we're halfway through at this point, and at this point, the midway episode that we just watched this week, 6, feels like it was probably the best episode for me so far. It felt more Ted Lasso than the previous episodes. The first episode was just really I did not like it. I just felt like this is really off, and I don't understand where we're going with that.
I would disagree. It didn't hit me until this episode. Oh, the concept that Ted kind of stumbles into total football.
Okay.
That's what they're doing with the show. Everyone's in different roles all the time. So no one is the leader. No one is, the captain. They're all in different roles each and every episode.
So then Jamie Tart, really, this secondary story of Tart becoming a leader really is going to be kind of a pointless thing then.
No,
right?
It's not. That's a through line. I'm talking the actual structure. Tart's got his own arc. Everyone's got their own thing, but his sometimes going to be the D plot. Sometimes his is going to be the B, maybe the A, right? All those things are moving all the time.
Yeah.
And I find that to be a really interesting way to write a show.
Okay.
So, because in this week, you would have assumed, we're going to get a lot more Keely and Jack after last week. Get barely anything. We got 3 lines and they're out the picture. That's where I think it comes into focus of, they're just kind of shuffling the board each and every episode to get little bits and pieces, and then it's all going to come together at the end.
So basically, the characters of the show are playing the same style of offense as they're going to play in the game. So this has been intentional. That's a very meta approach, and you've kind of shaken me right
And
now
I
because
read,
I
I
mean,
read, then I think I
yeah,
read an interview after that. I was like, oh yeah, that's what they said going into the show. Is like it's going to be like that. Nobody really understood it because we're not soccer people, you know.
yeah, yeah. It makes sense now because I forget his name. The gentleman, the player on the team that's closeted that Trent Grimm is currently working with now.
Colin.
Colin, I forget his name. Colin had like early on had almost an entire episode to himself too. So it makes sense now. Okay, all right,
Hmm.
all right, all right. Yeah, and Keely she had in the very beginning of the first couple episodes there was much more of her, and then
Hmm.
the last few there's been a lot less of her, and yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah,
We get an episode of Nate
yeah. We
early
get
on, and then he's been gone for the last 2 or 3 episodes.
yeah.
So
It's just going to shift the focus each and every time. It's not going to be Ted's show. It's going to be everyone's show. Which, as you
very
in a
meta
cast that
approach, man.
big, you're going to have to give and take.
Yeah.
So
Well, especially if they're talking about not going on to season 4 and possibly 5 at this point. Like
yeah,
we have to stretch the story out, the saga out a little bit longer
yeah. It
than
gives them
we
a
were
way to
anticipating.
kind of test the waters in terms of what will work and what won't
Yeah.
if they want to continue. Which I would imagine Apple will want them to, but I don't
At
really know.
least one more, at least season 4.
Yeah, I doubt. I doubt we'll have Ted Lasso anymore, though.
You think it'll
I think
just
he's
be
done after 3. I think
okay?
Sudeikis is done because he wanted it to be
Wow.
3. It's like that was his initial pitch, and it's the major league structure. You know, like they're gonna go win the whole fucking thing, and he's gonna bounce. Or I don't know if they're gonna actually win. They might Friday Night Lights it and get right there at the end, and then I don't know. That's gonna be an interesting one. That would be a way to keep him around if he's gonna go for it again. But it's
But
been.
doesn't that
I've loved this season.
okay?
Like
That's fair.
I've been having a blast.
I haven't had the fun like I had the previous seasons. It just like I said, until this week, it felt like we were building up to something, and this week felt much more like okay, we're heading somewhere. Like their identity and the Zava stuff, I wasn't a big fan of. I'll be honest with
I
you.
thought they were going to lead it with him going to West Ham, and then they have to beat Zava at the end, and Tart's going to be the one that beats him.
Yeah. Well,
They still could.
they still could because they've kind of leave the Zava thing like in limbo. Not just him retiring, but just in general, Zava is still out there. So yeah, he could be where he decides he got his passion back and he wants to play for West Ham. So, but it's not a bad show. I just maybe it just is. I'm absorbing it differently. That's just really
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
So yeah, Ted Lasso mid-season. We're gonna do probably a full season wrap up once the show is done, which will be
Yeah.
the week after the Wednesday after Memorial Day. It's the last Wednesday of the month. I think it's like the 30th or 31st. So we'll have a wrap up for that. That'll be, if I do the planning right, around episode 68. Because then 69 will be 6/9 on June 9th. So I'm looking forward to that.
Of nice episodes.
And here's my pitch for that, just to give you an in-episode tease. I'm thinking that week, you know what's out? Transformers: Rise of the Beasts. And the week before is Spider-Verse. So we see if Chloe wants to come on.
Okay.
I think there'll be 2 movies right up her alley. So hopefully she goes to at least one of them. Especially Transformers. And we do episode 69 on June 9th. I'd be down for that.
I like that.
All right. So, where do you want to go next?
Let's talk Mando, man.
Mando?
Let's talk the Mandalorian. Yes.
The Mandalorian. Okay, so
I want to get your thoughts.
Season 3 is in the books. For me, I don't want to like roast the show because it's not trying to be Andor.
Okay.
Like it's got a niche. It kind of hit me. They're trying to go like it's not quite as campy as like, remember Xena or Hercules, Like it's not trying to be that campy, but it's trying to be closer to that tone than like go for the Oscar, go for the Emmy, Andor. Like it's not trying to be that at all.
No.
It's just trying to tell interesting stories within the universe with characters we like. That's really all it's trying to do. And I think it was more successful than not at that. It just wasn't as good as season 2, for sure. Season 2 was fantastic. Had a lot of great moments. I think it's better than season 1 overall, but had some misses and things that just didn't come together. I think it actually could have probably used another episode or two or longer episodes. Like Ted Lasso this week has had an hour-long episode.
Yeah.
The finale for Mando was like 40-some minutes. Like, it having that maybe be a little longer so we get more of an epilogue, because it really felt like they were trying to wrap up the arc with Mandalore for now within this corner of the universe, within this specific show. A bit more of an epilogue, a bit more, this is what's going on would have been great. Maybe some kind of tie-in with Ahsoka because she knew Bo, or Sabine, who also knew Bo. That would have been cool, but it didn't happen. But I was overall satisfied with the season, but not blown away, if that makes sense.
Sure. Wasn't a bad season at all, but I think you and I really got hooked on Andor in the spy espionage politics, like all of the back dealings of the Empire and all, like just so much of that was written well in Andor that we kind of thought we kind of come back to the Mandalorian, which was it is what it is. Like the structure of it hasn't changed from season to season. I think the big thing was it's the Book of Boba Fett kind of stretched out, things until we got Mando 2.0, right? 2.5. And I think at that point we had the ending of season 2, which was incredible. And then we thought that was going to be the ending of a big story for Din Djarin, only to find out in Book of Boba Fett, like, oh yeah, we're just going to bring all of your favorites back, and then, hey, it's all going to be there in season 3. Now, you do say, like, hey, we should have gotten some setup for Ahsoka. I think we kind of under the table got that with the fact that he's going to contract with the New Republic on jobs on the Outer Rim areas, and that could lead into him running into, because obviously Mando's got to make an appearance on Ahsoka, right?
I could see him be in the first episode.
Yeah, and I think that's where that kind of piece where you can that's where you can kind of bridge that gap. And it wasn't a bad finale. I will say this: I thought the battle was a little anticlimactic, only in that I'm now buying into, and you're probably going to laugh about this, the conspiracy theory that Moff Gideon isn't dead, that who they thought was a clone based off of one little thing. And I'll go, spoiler, guys, spoilers. Cover your ears if you have to. That he didn't have a mustache. And then in the promos, like the online web promos by Disney, he has his mustache. And so it leads you to think maybe that was a clone. So we're gonna get Moff Gideon again. But
I don't think they're gonna do that.
I'm a little played out with the Moff Gideon stuff.
I think that entire part is done.
Okay, because
they're moving on to Thrawn at this point.
Obviously, Thrawn's going to become the next big thing in terms of like where we're at in the Star Wars timeline, and then obviously with Star Wars Day, we're going to gear up for post Rise of Skywalker, right? That's really
where I want to touch on with Thrawn.
Okay, and that's fair. And here's the thing: is that don't forget, Mando is a very popular character. You could get an older version of Mando in episode 10. What are we going to call it? Episode 10? I have no idea, because it does involve Rey Skywalker. It's been announced there will be that movie. Dave Filoni's going to have his own Star Wars movie that he said it's more. It's going to
be like the culmination, kind of like what Crisis kind of was for the Arrowverse. It's going to bring it all together.
Yeah, but
obviously, hopefully better, like in terms of budget and production, and it all comes together in a 2-hour-ish movie. So I don't know, maybe, I would love to see them do something else in the Empire, like, timeline. It's like,
okay,
because obviously I want to see what they do with Bad Batch, but, like, there's so many threads from Clone Wars they never really resolved. Like, I want to see what Hondo has been up to, Hondo Ohnaka.
Okay.
I want to see that kind of stuff, those kind of side stories, but so I'm looking forward to what Filoni has to do for his movie, because I like his take on Star Wars generally, on rails, kind of. Sometimes he gets a little too in the weeds, but
A little bit, yeah, a little bit.
Yeah,
But
I mean, if he's working with him and Favreau, I think they're going to do something great with that.
those two work. They work great together. Like they complement each other in terms of like, hey, you get your fan service, but you're not constantly
Yeah.
bombarded with it. It's relevant fan service. Here's my thought, and I don't know if you what you think about this, but it was a very popular game on the N64. It was a very popular book, and we never really think about this. But what about doing a Shadows of the Empire, but actually make it canon in this like actually do a Shadows canon, which does involve Palpatine clones,
Hmm.
which does involve bounty hunters and the remnants of the fall of the Empire, all of that stuff, and it's it could fit. Well, obviously, Shadows fits between um, Return of the Jedi and Mandalorian, right? That's where Shadows falls.
Wasn't Shadows them stealing the plans of the Death Star?
No,
Which one was that one?
that was Rogue One,
No. That's the canon one. I'm talking the book.
the book. Okay,
Because that was
okay.
that was that Rendar or Katarn? Because one of those two was like they helped steal the
See
Death
now,
Star plans.
see now I'm a little. Okay, see, like Pathos says, Shadows started with the Battle of Hoth. Okay,
Pathos is
okay,
in chat. He will know this. But
yeah.
am I not right? One of these books dealt with that?
Okay, so Shadows the game takes place after Return of the Jedi, but I don't know how where it's at between Jedi and Mandalorian.
Okay,
Because Mando is what 5 years after Jedi?
give or take, yeah.
Yeah, give or take 5 years. I don't know, but the game is supposed to be after the fall of the Empire in Jedi.
Yeah.
I
So
don't like, and I will say I read the book, but I don't remember much about it. I need to go back and read the book, but I just remember it being a property that when the game came out, people were very happy about just having something related to the original trilogy saga, right? Directly related to that portion of the Star Wars lore. And the game was popular. The book had become popular again. I'd go into shops and see that, and I think maybe touching on Shadows of the Empire would probably be a really good. It doesn't even have to be a movie. It could be like the next series.
I was gonna say touch on. Have you seen the promos? I don't know if you've watched it. That show that I think it was Pacino, where they're hunting Nazis,
Yeah,
right? Do that, but you're hunting Imperial officers.
that would be
So
cool.
number one, you get to flesh out more. Like you'd start on Coruscant, you'd meet the officers. Maybe it's oh my god, the officer that was in this season, the requisitions guy,
Oh yeah,
Tim Meadows. That's who it
yeah,
was. Maybe
that
he's
is.
involved, and like he's like the captain of this group or whatever that's like going to hunt, Imperial troops or officers. I think that'd be an interesting, kind of maybe a 6 episode show, maybe even shorter. Maybe it's like 3. Maybe it's just a mini series. I think that'd be cool, something to flesh out that corner of the universe a little bit and give you a better sense of what the New Republic even is. Like, because like at that point, like how did they get from Coruscant to? They didn't blow up Coruscant in Force Awakens to cripple the New Republic's government. So like at some point it moved, right?
Yeah,
You're telling me it wasn't Coruscant, right? I'm not.
there's no way it could have been immediately. The New Republic was just reestablished in Coruscant. Doesn't make sense, right?
Right, like that.
Doesn't-
That whole thing was just so fucking stupid to me.
that was really dumb.
But getting back to where I was going off of Star Wars Celebration, so they're going to
Sure.
tell these new stories with Rey and her probably Jedi group,
But they've only announced one movie, so they're taking it one movie at a time, which I'm okay with.
and they've announced that, and we know we're going to see Thrawn. In
Yep.
Thrawn's book, which is canon, they set up that his
Yep.
people. The only reason Thrawn joined the Empire was because the Empire was going to help them fight an enemy from outside the galaxy, which is basically a new version of the Yuzong Vong, who are these like entities who come from outside the galaxy, and because they're not of our galaxy, the Force doesn't touch them.
Yep.
So the Jedi can't fight them like a traditional enemy. They can still do certain things like, throw big fucking rocks at them and stuff like that. Kill them with lightsabers. That works too. But
They're not
they're
Force sensitive.
they're immune
Yeah.
to the Force, essentially.
Yeah.
So they can't be read. They can't be really interrogated by the Force. Like they don't feel it. So I'm hoping Ahsoka series is going to cement that really is a threat to everyone, and they're gonna deal with it in this show at the end, but not really. We as the audience are gonna know. Oh no, that was just like a scouting party. They're still like 20 years away, and then here we go. That's gonna be the main bad. of the universe going forward, because that was a whole thing. And remember the EU canon? That was like how many years and how many books of fighting the
Oh
Yuzong
man,
Vong? It was a lot.
it was a lot. It was like almost like what 8, 9 years.
Yeah,
Yeah,
something
and
like that. It was intense.
the Solo Skywalker family were decimated from it, and a
Yeah,
lot,
it was crazy.
yeah, a lot happened. Like a
Yeah.
lot happened to the main EU lore. Like there was a lot of repercussions from the Yusong
Yeah.
Vong War.
And I
Yeah.
could definitely see them picking threads of that and taking that and telling some interesting stories in the Star Wars universe in live action. I
Well,
think
at
that'd be pretty
least we're
cool.
getting a different version of the Yuzong Vong, but I like the idea. It's something that we've
Yeah,
been talking
similar
about. Like, hey,
concept. Yeah,
the
it's not going to be the
concept, but
same thing, but
no, they're not going to directly take it from the extended EU.
well, they
From the
could. They've done
EU.
it before.
They have, but they didn't with Ben Solo. Like, they changed a lot of that up too. The kids, the children. So, but probably maybe by the end of the Ahsoka series, we come to learn that Thrawn is not really the villain that we thought he was. He's more of
Yeah, like
an
they
anti-hero.
think they're going to go save Ezra, but he's been working with Thrawn the whole time because he understands, oh, this is bad, guys. Like, if we don't stop this, galaxy's fucked. Like, and then they have to help Thrawn too. I think that'd be an interesting swerve that they could do within that universe, within the Ahsoka show.
Sure.
Plus, if you do the time jump, and that's why I don't think we're going to see Mandalore for some time, getting back to Mandalorian season 3. We might see it a little in season 4, a little touch in with how Mandalore's doing. I don't think we see Mandalore for quite some time. Because when we come back, we want to see a resurgent Mandalore. They've rebuilt one of the domes. They've got their farms. Like, they're growing, they're self-sustaining, and their population is growing. And I want to see them, because like Rey, they go up against these enemies, they don't know how to fight them, they don't know how to kill them. Who do you go see when you need some shit to die? You go to Mandalore, and you get the Mandalorians to help you. And that's where we're going to really see Mandalore kind of really come back in the new like next time jump, go 10 years or so past Rise of Skywalker. So it'll be in universe like 30 to 40 years between Revenge or between Mando 3 and whatever they do with Rey.
Yeah, because they said Rey is going to be 10 years from
Something
Rise
like that.
of
It's going to be a
Skywalker.
jump, which makes sense because obviously she's not aging, right? So, yeah, I think that's the next time we really see Mandalore like in full, as we did in this season.
That would be, yeah. I mean, well, also we're not going to get season 4 next year.
No, it's going to be some time.
2025 at the earliest. So,
though one of the rumors is they're going to rush production a little bit because the Ranger show was canceled, not in the pipeline.
Right. Yeah.
So,
huh?
Man, we didn't get any no helmet Pedro. I was shocked by that. I was like, really?
At least get it when he's in his cabin, right?
Yeah, like that would have been the perfect time to do it because he's with his family.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have mattered, right? His apprentice and his adopted son. Which I didn't think was entirely necessary, but does kind of make sense.
Yeah.
The naming convention is weird, but also, Mandalorians are fucking weird.
They are weird. They are a very weird group.
And speaking of epilogue, I was hoping we were going to get an actual resolution for, like the covert and the regular Mandalorians, the ones that take their helmet off. Like, I wanted to see a merging of those cultures. Like, the covert realizes, okay, it's kind of stupid for the entire planet to never take helmets off. That's dumb. But also, the other people that are doing all these other things, also not super honorable, right? Like, they're not living the right way. And they all realize, okay, we're not doing things the smartest here. Let's forge a new way to do things. That would have been nice to see. Even just a conversation, if it was just the Armorer and Bo-Katan, like walking at the end, having a conversation about where Mandalore was going to go, I think would have done wonders for the questions in my head.
So you're right. We probably could have got another 10 minutes out of the finale, and you could have added that in just so you know. Especially with the entirety of the season is the recapturing and resurgence of Mandalore.
Yeah.
Give us something other than just the symbolic restarting of the Forge.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah.
That would have been nice to see. But again, doesn't really detract from the overall that the season was decent. Nothing, groundbreaking. But again, I still think everything in Star Wars is going to pale to Andor for quite some time.
One thread I'm curious about is the Imperial slash New Order slash whatever going forward, their involvement with Beskar armor, because we've established that Moff Gideon created a group that did have Beskar. So is someone else in the Empire slash New Order going to take the lead in that, building out like an operative group
Yeah.
that has Beskar?
Yeah. A lot of interesting stuff that we could see from Star Wars. Anything else you want to add before we move on to the other Star show?
Oh, that's it for me, man. Let's do this.
All right, let's talk about one we have unreserved love for.
Picard.
Star Trek Picard Season 3. Holy fuck, the show was good. Like, again, not perfect. Some holes that make you go, okay, what's going on? But also, just right here in your heart, it makes you just got some fist pump, holy fuck moments of just like great narrative payoff for characters that are 36 years old at this point. Fucking love this show, man. And it was so bad for 2 seasons. Like, it was like just like kind of aggressively mid to dog shit for most of the first 2 seasons.
Okay.
And then season 3 turns around and what the fuck?
Season 1 was, we are telling a Picard story. It was almost like Rain Johnson. Is it Rain or Ryan? Rain Johnson?
Ryan Johnson.
It's Ryan Johnson. It was almost like he said, I'm going to write a Star Trek next gen story without the Next Generation cast, other than Picard, right? That's what it felt like, almost like that the last Jedi. You know, it felt really like intentionally trying to be an edgelord of the IP. But that said, season 1 did touch on some important things, and that was this idea of synth, the synths and their involvement and their acceptance in the entire galaxy, as a whole. Because, spoilers if you haven't watched it, Picard becomes a synth. His physical body dies at the end of season 1, and he's a synth. So going forward, it makes what happens in season 3 that much sweeter, particularly with Data.
Mm-hmm.
So, I love the TNG cast. I love watching interviews with these guys because they all love each other. They're
yeah, there's no drama
so
there. Like, they're all friends.
They are like the closest of friends, and when you watch them tell stories, they have such fun. And I know that they had probably had a blast filming this season, man.
Oh yeah,
it's a great. Was it a final send off? I don't know. They kind of leave it open in a way,
for
but
their stories, yes, they're still gonna probably pop into different things, but for their stories, yeah. This was done. How old is Stewart's in his 90s, right?
Well, Stewart's in his 80s, but 80s. The character is
in his 90s.
97 years old.
Yeah,
Picard's 97 years old, so yeah.
Yeah, so like it just at some point it's not going to be feasible, but like I just love, and I just want to circle back about the first season. The only reason that happened is the only reason they got Stewart to come back was that he did not want a reunion show. He's like, if I wanted that, if they pitched me that, I would have said no. This was going to be a new thing examining exclusively Picard. But they quickly found out it really didn't work. And so Terry Matalas, who was the co-showrunner of season 2, he took over as sole showrunner of 3. Yep. And man, what he said about his first draft is basically my perfect season 3. Because like he wanted Kate Mulgrew. He wanted to see Kim. He wanted to get a bunch of the Voyager cast together, especially for the final episode. And they were like, are you fucking nuts? We don't have the money for that. So he had to completely rewrite it all. Which you could kind of see in spots, like all the name drops with Janeway. There was so many name drops with her. But I do understand the logistics that you can't always get what you need. And you can tell they didn't have that much money. Because, look at the lighting this season. Yeah. It's very dark. And that hides a lot because that's going to save you money. And they were able to really skirt some corners, but still tell a very exciting story. And it's telling that Stewart had to be wrong for the show to be good. Because, man, once the Next Generation cast comes back, Star Trek just fucking works again. It's such a good show. So,
do you think he was a little bitter having to do this season, though?
From what I've seen, no. I think he, over the course, kind of understood that. And especially because what they've said, Terry's pitch was fantastic. Yeah. Especially because that's what Brent said. Like, he didn't think he was coming back.
No,
Especially Data. He thought he'd be coming back as soon or like a flashback or something. But no, he's coming back as Data.
Actual Data, yeah.
And like his return was incredible. Like that moment when, he comes back I think it's episode 7, maybe 8. It's 8. When he comes
Yep.
back like and beats Lore.
Yeah.
It's one of those fist pumping fuck yeah moments.
Oh, and he gets on the PA. He's like, "This is your pissed off synth." Yeah.
Exactly. And like him like getting to open up and be more emotional as Data.
Because
Absolutely wonderful.
Because he's a synth now.
Yeah, he's not a positronic android. He's this new thing
Yep.
that he can use contractions and make jokes, and like a Betazoid can read his emotions, which is fucking awesome. So many cool moments in this season. But what is your favorite?
Final episode, when they're in the shuttle going back to the museum, and Geordi opens the gates, and you see the Enterprise D there. That was like, I geeked out, man. I geeked out just because, like, in Picard, and Patrick Stewart is such a fantastic actor. Even at his age, like, I know he's very limited physically with what he can do, but he can still convey so much in his eyes, and like in that shot of him looking up and seeing what it was, he's like, it's the Enterprise, it's the Enterprise, D. His eyes just like they changed, like it almost, you could see him changing emotions,
Yeah.
from like shock to excitement. And yeah, that was my favorite moment, man.
Yeah,
That
the Enterprise D reveal. I mean, straight up, that maybe is one of the greatest starship something reveals in Star Trek's history.
We knew we were getting.
It wasn't even a secret. Like there
No.
was multiple references, like early on they have the models, which I have some of them sitting behind me, the same company. They just straight up used the gold Eagle Moss one. And that's because they didn't sell, so they had a bunch left in a warehouse. Paramount just bought them all and is using them in productions now for like captains, models and stuff. And like Riker's like and that bartender's like, nobody wants the fat one. But he's like, it's the Enterprise. And then his daughter, like, what about Hangar 12? And they don't come back to it until they need a ship that's not connected to the mainframe. Ah.
Yeah.
That reveal, the music, the TNG theme, the Generations theme, and then they're also using the First Contact theme in the credits. Like the amount of fan service, it almost shouldn't have worked because there's a ton of fan service. But they also managed to really carry forward a lot of things that happened in 90s Trek, like Janeway's virus, time-traveling Janeway's virus from Voyager is what killed the Borg. And they didn't write it off. There's no Girardi. Like, no, Janeway fucking killed these motherfuckers. There was one left. Like, that's some wild shit that they actually carried that forward.
And that is the original Queen.
That's Alice Krieg.
But what I mean is that Picard has never met the original Queen.
No, he met.
He met
a different Queen that died in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
this is the Voyager Queen.
This is the Voyager Queen, and so but we don't officially say that. You have to kind of you have to read into interviews.
And again,
and they'll tell you
because they can't get Mulgrew, and they couldn't write that part in because they knew they didn't have the money for it.
Yep.
But the implication is awesome. Janeway fucked them up.
Yep.
And then, of course, carrying in the changelings from Deep Space Nine, like dragging all these different bits and pieces that totally make sense that they would matter 15 to 20 years after their events, that there would be these consequences. It makes sense. And I really, really dug that.
Yeah, I really liked the biological aspect of the Borg, that the DNA.
Yeah.
The DNA is basically infecting everyone through transporters, but it's only young people versus the old. Was it cheesy? Yeah, but was it fun?
Does it
yes,
work? Yeah.
Because all the old people were like, we're not infected. We can't.
And tying that all into the reason Q is interested in Picard is probably because of his brain. Like he's more advanced, doesn't know it because of that whole. They thought it was a syndrome that was going to kill him, but really it's this thing that made his brain more advanced, and that via also the Borg and that thing in his brain, he passed it on to his kid. I mean, that's fantastic. That was really, really well done, Trek. And again, Trek is not. It's not hard sci-fi. It's not like The Expanse, explaining why you have to like pour alcohol at an angle because the asteroid you're on is spinning at a certain speed. Like, it's not doing that shit. It's hand wavy. It's technobabble. but it just fucking works for whatever reason. It works for the same reason Doctor Who works. Like, you just gotta go with it sometimes and just let those rules kind of go out the window. And when you do, Star Trek can be super fucking fun. This
with
season was fun.
legacy IPs that have been around for decades, the suspension of disbelief there has to be, like, you just have to, you can't go into it and try to apply, funny to say this, apply so much logic to it, because it is like, it's been around for 50, 60, just like Doctor Who's been around for what, 70, 80 years at this point now. Like, there's so much that so much disbelief you have to suspend. But while you're doing it, it's fun because a lot of the stories can be very well written. I think Strange New Worlds really shows that. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many different stories that we can tell that make it fun.
So for me, my standout episode though is probably episode 4, which is when they're in the nebula and they're on the run, and like the ship, well, not even on the run, the ship has been crippled, and they keep getting these like energy waves, and like you have Crusher and Riker and Picard all working together to like figure out a plan to save the ship. And when Riker, tells the crewmate these coordinates and if the tractor beam is working, and he fucking chucks an asteroid at the ship that's trying to kill them, I thought that was phenomenal. Especially did you just throw an asteroid? Goddamn right I did. And they just keep on rolling. I thought that was phenomenal and just a great character moment for Riker, especially them examining that arc from season 1, which is that their son died.
Yeah.
And that he's been in a depression for how many years? Because we can't remember how long it had been since his son had died, but it had been a few years. And that he's just been emotionally numb. And what that would then also do to his wife, who is an emotional telepath, basically.
Yeah.
Like,
so she's always known that he's felt this way.
Like, I really thought they managed to carry those stories across the seasons and with the character's history extremely well. Things like Worf and his comedic timing, which was very good in Deep Space Nine. Like, he was one of the funniest parts of the show during its latter seasons once he shows up. And I thought they maybe went a little too hard on the comedy with him a little bit. A little too zen, but it was still fucking hilarious. Like when Riker tries to lift the sword and he pulls the phaser out, he's like, "You had a phaser the whole time? Swords are fun." And they are, Worf. Swords are fun. Like, stuff like that makes Worf work really, really well. And I thought they managed to really bring some fun energy out of that character in a radically different way than probably anyone expected. Because it wasn't just the same old characters we knew. Like Crusher's out here fucking like destroying things with the Enterprise weapon systems.
Oh yeah.
And everyone turns to her, look at her. Like, lots happened in 20 years. That was incredible. I thought they absolutely nailed the season, and I cannot wait. I really hope Star Trek Legacy happens, and they do give it that spin-off treatment. Because Metalis is on record, like, I got it. I have the treatment. I know what we would do. I know all the character arcs. I just need the green light from Paramount, and then we go. Like, he's even been like, I already have the logo. Like, I want the old school, like that the 90s Trek font. Like, I want that. Star Trek Legacy. Let's fucking go. Give Terry Metalis the keys to the kingdom for that show, and I think that'd be something great there. You couple that with Strange New Worlds. Oh, Trek would never have been in a better spot. Just my thoughts.
I mean, we basically have shown that, hey, we can tell more stories based off of where Riker and Troy are now, where everybody's in their own little spaces, but they're in this galaxy. But then at the same time, they're so far apart, but they're so close. And this season showed how they can come together. Does that mean you have to have the entire TNG crew on Legacy come together? No, you don't have to have that. It could be somewhat almost anthology in a way. You don't have to center it around one particular character.
No, like, I would expect. So my idea for Legacy is, number one, a whole lot of admirals are dead now, and captains are dead now.
Yep.
So someone's gonna have to like rebuild Starfleet Academy and be there like as a senior, advisor or officer to help like shepherd that in. And I think Riker is the perfect character for that. I think you would have him and Deanna move back to Earth and like help lead Starfleet into the, where they're going, because have him accept the promotion from captain to admiral.
Yep.
Because it certainly sounded like that's why he stalled out and was really retired. Not just his son, but also that he'd been a captain, didn't want to get promoted, and they didn't want him in command anymore. But now he's in a different spot emotionally. So I could see him becoming an admiral, and working to, like, he would be the point of contact for the Enterprise G. Like, maybe he's the one that gives them their orders for their next mission, or maybe it's Janeway. I think you would have to have a Janeway connection if you're going to have Captain Seven. You're going to need to touch in with a lot of the Voyager characters if Seven's going to be your captain.
Obviously, yeah.
But the legacy aspect, I think, or like, do you remember, or like, I don't know if you remember the Voyager finale this much, but like, technically, by age, Tom Paris and B'Elanna Torres' daughter would be the same age as Jack and Sydney LaForge. She'd be in that age. So I'm like, oh, well,
early to mid-20s. Yeah,
like
you're
shit. Right. Make her like an engineer or something in the ship, and boom, there you go. There's your trio of like ensigns that would like all know each other.
Yeah,
like be the legacy of the series we have seen so far. I think that'd be fantastic.
Well, I mean, that's obviously why we've established Jack being Jean-Luc's son, in that we can carry on the Picard name, going forward.
And Metalis has said he's going to stay Jack Crusher, but everyone's gonna know he's Picard's son.
Yeah. But the other thing is that, and it was a great touch by Metalis and company to do this, but the president of Starfleet being Anton Chekhov,
he's Todd Stashwick's neighbor. That's how they got him to do it. He's just like Todd Stashwick. What's his name? Koenig was just like, yeah, I was walking my dog. Todd was walking his dog, and he's like, hey, our producer's gonna probably call you tomorrow. You should say yes, because we'll do it at your house. So they recorded all that audio at his house.
But Terry Metalis posted a picture on Twitter during the finale, and Koenig was at his house.
Yeah, they were watching because like they all like lived very near each other. And they named him Anton to honor Anton Yelchin, who played Chekhov in the Kelvin movies. I thought that was a really great touch, as was renaming the Titan to the Enterprise G. Again, carrying on the legacy of Star Trek and the name Enterprise. Star Trek's in a great spot.
And we have now with Enterprise G, we have 7 of 9 and Raph leading that ship, which are, I guess now you could say that they have become their legacy characters now, obviously from...
Well, and of course Jerry Ryan is. Jerry Ryan's always has been one of the best actresses or actors of the entire franchise. I will say this.
Her return in the first season of Picard was pretty badass.
Dude, it was great. And I still am not going to forgive Kurtzman for fucking over Egypt like that. Again, I know that the actor was an asshole.
Yeah.
People didn't like working with him. But still, the character dying off screen, bullshit.
Yeah. But at the same time, though. I was
going to say, what the fuck's going on with the Doctor? I want to see Picardo again in Star Trek. In Legacy, Picardo needs to show the fuck up.
Okay.
He's the other standout character from Voyager. We have no context for what is going on with him. And did Harry Kim ever get promoted? Like, I want to know this shit. Obviously he did. He's not gonna stay an ensign for forever if he was still in Starfleet. But
you could make it an episode in Lower Decks.
That's the other thing. Like Lower Decks, they're all younger officers. Do they show up in a Star Trek Legacy as their live action versions? Because they're going to be live action in Strange New Worlds, which we'll touch on very shortly. Like, I would love to see them, a ship under, like, Beckett's command or something with her group in Star Trek Legacy. I think that'd be a great nod to Lower Decks. And again, fleshing out that universe that, like, in the last 15 years, they grew up, they had adventures, And again, Pathos, somehow, Tuvix returns.
Tuvix returns.
But I would love to see, maybe, does the G go back to the Delta Quadrant? Because, like, they could. The Borg are gone. Nothing's stopping them there.
Yeah.
Do we get a stopping with G at Deep Space Nine because they're going to go start exploring the Gamma Quadrant more? I don't know. Are we going to get a check-in at Cardassia? Because it's been 20 years since, the fall of Cardassia or whatever. It'd be pretty interesting to see that kind of thing. So they could do a lot with Legacy. Each episode, touching on a different aspect of Star Trek lore while giving room for our characters to interact with each other on the ship.
Well, let me ask you: would you be okay with Legacies being led by the Enterprise G with Seven and Nine and Raph
Oh, of course. Are you
and
kidding
Jack
me?
and
That's the
Jack
that's
and
the
Jack?
pitch, man. You
That'd
cap
be great, right?
7 to fucking 9 as captain of the Enterprise? Are you shitting me?
Yeah, and you
Only
have a
thing that would have made
Picard.
more sense is the Voyager A, but the Enterprise G works just as good.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, like those. That's the only two options. I still wish they'd given Metalis all the money he wanted, because man, his what he wanted to do was awesome.
Well, I cross your fingers because if Strange New Worlds does really well in season 2, they may give him
They need
a
more
good
Star
break.
Trek. They're gonna need
Yeah,
more, because Strange
yeah,
New Worlds, that trailer fucking ruled.
yeah.
God, that was a great trailer.
Such a phenomenal cast, man.
It's
God.
so good. It looks fantastic. Like we get that era actually looking Klingons, like next generation looking Klingons instead of fucking
Yeah,
Discovery's shenanigans. Ah, like it looks like we're gonna start telling the origins of how Spock kind of helped negotiate peace with the Klingons, which is
yeah,
fantastic. Can't wait to see how that's gonna look, because Ethan Peck's Spock is phenomenal.
yeah. I
The
love him.
comedy they're able to get out of him, it's one of those things. It's kind of like with Worf. It sometimes shouldn't work, and it does, because the actor's just that fucking good. Ah, love it. Love that show, and I cannot wait for June. Strange New Worlds is gonna just be so good, especially off the heels of Ted Lasso, because that
Yeah,
ends right before Strange New Worlds comes back. It's got a lot of that same tone in terms of, you know, the characters, the comedy, the warmness to it. Obviously, it's an entirely different genre, but that background tone of the characters, it works really, really well. Anything else you
had
want
a
to touch on?
no man. Just I had an absolute blast with Picard season 3. Like I didn't like I watched season 1. It wasn't bad, wasn't great. Season 2, that was pretty
Yeah,
bad. And then
season
season
one, you can
3,
tell. Oh, episode 6, they did yeah, they changed showrunners.
yeah,
Yeah, the guy got
yeah,
fired. You can
yeah.
tell. It's
And
weird.
season 3 is just like, hey, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do the reunion, and we're gonna go balls to the wall, and it's gonna be fun. And it was fun. That's the main thing. And I love LeVar Burton. We got a ton of Geordie LaForge, which well, he was my favorite character in
Yeah,
TNG.
we got to see him dealing with Data's death and then
Yeah,
Rebirth.
Rebirth, as
Phenomenal.
well as potentially having to sacrifice his two daughters. Through
One,
the
his
Borg
real life
crisis.
daughter,
One
Mika
who's
Burton.
Mika Burton. Yeah, she was great. But like just the fact that he didn't want to be pulled into it. He has to be pulled into it, and now he could potentially be having to sacrifice his daughters to save the rest of the universe. It's or the galaxy. So it's that was a really cool experience to see from especially I know he actually recently was on Rob Lowe's podcast, and he was phenomenal on that. And if you're big into these guys, Spiner was on Rosenbaum's podcast
Oh, yeah, him
last
and
week as well.
Frakes, their episodes were awesome.
Oh my God, man.
So good.
These guys tell such
Oh,
amazing
and they want to do
stories.
their own show,
Yeah.
apparently. Like some
Yep.
kind of like, remember like Kings of Khan?
Yeah.
I want to do that, but like mix it with like American Pickers, where it's like they're going to interact with fans in their own spaces.
Yeah,
Like,
because
oh, damn.
they travel together a
But yeah,
lot
they do.
to these cons. Like as a group, the TNG group travel a lot to the cons. So it would be a really cool like
I saw Gary
reality
Whitta
show.
had met them, and I'm like, oh, I want to. I want to know if Gary Whitta pitched them something, because he has talked publicly that he has wanted to do something in Star Trek for a long time,
Yeah.
and he would be a big name to get for a writer. It's like a season long to lead a writers' room for Star Trek, with what he did with Star Wars, how many things he's done, comic books, and obviously movies and TV. That'd be interesting, because his pitch, I guess, is very Wrath of Khan in terms of like you would treat it like it's like a submarine battle. I'm like,
Mhm.
oh man, give me that. Give me some of that with Gary Whitta and Star Trek. I'd be a happy nerd. Ah, can't wait to see what comes with Star Trek though.
Yep.
All right, so I think we're gonna get out of here. Other than,
Yeah.
do we want to touch on John Wick 4?
I say we save that for a
Save
John
that.
Wick cast.
I will say though, the IMAX showing did not disappoint.
And I want to say this of it though. The Osaka Continental fight scene,
Just how it layers and just constantly builds.
incredible. Just the action of this movie. Each movie's gotten better and better and better. And then this one just holy shit, you know? we can talk about it. We can rank the movies and talk about it at a different time. But I had this was a great experience. Watching John Wick 4 was
Yeah.
great. Definitely
Hopefully
worth
we're able to get
definitely
that.
worth sitting down.
Yeah, I'm hoping we can get that ranking episode done sometime here soon and have that out for you all.
Yep.
So I think we're going to call it here.
Yep.
Unless you have anything to add. Pathos, thanks for hanging out as always, my man. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
We'll be back. I'll be back specifically tomorrow with Jedi Fallen Order, as well as more this week with some Horizon Zero Dawn, or not Zero Dawn, Forbidden West DLC, and then Jedi Survivor. We should probably get a Fortnite night in at some point. And then we're going to do episode 66 here shortly. So stay tuned to Twitter and Discord when that occurs.
Yep.
And if you're listening on any services or over on YouTube, of course, drop a like or review, whatever particular platform you're using. Help the algorithm boost a little bit. Help us grow the show. I just say grow. Help grow the show if you can. We would certainly appreciate it because it's nice to be back recording with Fusion.
Yes. Always a pleasure, my friend. Always a pleasure.
All right, let's get out of here. See ya.
Peace.